Hi, I'm Sean Reynolds with Eric Engels, and this is your Daily Dose. And Eric, the Montreal Canadiens finally find a successful game plan here in this Stanley Cup Final. What's it going to take for them to take that forward onto the road?
Well, start by scoring first, right? That was the most essential thing to the game plan operating the way it did. And yes, Tampa stormed back twice in the game, and the stress level raised quite a bit. But I thought, the special teams were fantastic from the Canadiens. They didn't score on the power play, but they generated momentum. And obviously, the penalty kill came up huge 5 times, including on that double minor at the end of the game, where the stress level was through the roof. So, that stuff is all great. I thought the other thing that the Canadiens did exceptionally well, because a lot of credit went to Carey Price for the way he played the game. He was fantastic. He said he needed to be better. He was. The way they cleared his sight lines, the way they cleared up the front of the net, and really were hard on the Tampa forwards in front of the net, that was a big recipe for success that they need to replicate.
There's been so much talk about the four Clydesdales, those big Canadiens defensemen throughout these playoffs. There hadn't been a lot of talk about them in the first couple of games, but boy, oh boy, I'm not sure if I've seen players like Kucherov or Point take as much abuse as they did in that game. Is that a winning game plan that can get the Canadiens back into this series?
It has to be, right? Like, that's how those guys are built, whether it's Shea Weber, Ben Sherratt, or Joel Edmondson and Jeff Petrie. They have the size and the physicality to do it. And, 3 of the 4 guys really have the mean streak to do it. And we saw it play a big hand and a big role in this win in game 4. Shea Weber was an animal last night. That penalty was so unjust in terms of the way he played the game. He was a big influence on the outcome. And those 2 hits that he threw on Braden Point were massive. Ben Sherratt, Joel Edmondson on Nikita Kucherov, and Ben Sherratt on Nikita Kucherov, he was tenderized by Mayfield in the last round. I think the Canadiens have given him too easy of a pass through the first 3 games. And so if they are able to continue doing that, they not only give themselves a better chance to get back in the series, but if it goes longer, they give themselves a better chance of eventually winning it. We can't talk about that yet. We're way off from where that needs to be for the Canadiens to break through. 3 wins in a row after, the game 4 win would be huge against this Tampa team. They're incredible, but that's got to be a big part of the game plan, is tenderizing those Tampa forwards.
Eric, we're going to see you down in Tampa for game 5, although it may not be easy to get down there. Tropical storm Elsa on a lot of people's minds. How may that affect this series?
Well, first of all, the game's got to go on, right? Everyone's got to get there safely. Everyone's en route, but this is kind of a scary situation. But it's another storm for the Canadiens to weather. They've been through so many this season, from COVID early on to Yoel Armia, to the grueling schedule down the stretch, to the travel across the country, to Dominic Ducharme being placed in quarantine in the playoffs, to the 3-1 deficit to the Toronto Maple Leafs and overcoming that. They've overcome so much. What's another storm for the Canadiens? You just hope everyone in Tampa is safe. I hope to get there on time for the game. This is kind of a first travel situation for me, and of course it has to be as complicated as possible, but I'm excited to get down there. I think the Canadiens are excited to get down there. And as Dominic Ducharme said after the game, we're going to go to Tampa and we're going to have one last game at the Bell Center.
Well, if you're a team that wins the Stanley Cup Final, you want the cool stories. Going through COVID could be one of those. The comeback against the Leafs, another. Hey, if they're going to win the Stanley Cup, they become only the 2nd team in the history of the Stanley Cup Final to come back from a 3-0 deficit. You don't get much better in terms of stories than that.